It began with an encrypted message slipped into Traoré's hands by a Russian attaché at a quiet diplomatic reception in Accra. No official letterhead, just 12 words. Moscow awaits you. Come alone, or not at all. Burkina Faso's young president had grown used to Western eyes watching him, but this was different. Russia had been whispering to Africa's new lions for years, promising roads where Paris left potholes, weapons where Washington offered lectures. Now they wanted him, the man who told both East and West to mind their own empires. Back in Ouagadougou, his inner circle debated through the night. Sankara leaned across the table, voice gravel rough. They want you to kneel for cheap oil and old guns? Once you say yes, you never say no again? Traoré stared at the flickering candle, the same flame they'd lit the night they kicked out the last foreign base. And if I don't go? He asked. Sankara didn't blink. Then they'll come here instead, with gifts first, then spies, then chaos. Outside, the city pulsed with a restless hope. Children learned new songs about his name. Vendors told stories of a future where no flag flew above theirs. He owed them more than just courage. He owed them choices. Traoré rose from his chair. Book the flight. Moscow wants a lion? Let them meet one. As the plane rumbled down the cracked tarmac at dawn, Sankara watched from the edge of the runway, a ghost from past revolutions blessing this new rebellion in silence. Moscow greeted Traoré with a winter that stung the bones and silenced all illusions of warmth. A black ZIL limousine whisked him past ice-slicked avenues lined with ancient ambitions and new security cameras. No official motorcade, no waving flags, just hush and watchful eyes. Inside the Kremlin, the Great Hall waited, marble floors polished by centuries of deals struck far from African soil. Putin was already there, seated alone at one end of a table longer than some Ouagadougou streets. He didn't rise when Traoré entered. He simply gestured to the opposite chair with a thin smile that had outlived 3 Western presidents. President Traoré, Putin began, voice calm as a chess master moving unseen pawns. Africa stands at a crossroads. You can lean toward Paris, toward Washington, or you can stand with those who respect strength. Traoré's coat dripped melting snow onto the ancient carpet, yet he sat dry-eyed, unshivering. I don't lean, I stand. Burkina Faso chooses its own road. A flicker behind Putin's gaze. Amusement or the calculation of a man who'd broken harder men than this village son with pretty slogans. Independence is expensive, Putin said lightly. Let us make it affordable for you. Weapons, advisors, investments. A shield against your enemies. Russia asks only for friendship and certain contracts. Traoré's pulse drummed in his ears, not from fear, but from the taste of this old trap in new colors. Friendship, he echoed, or a new flag to fly over my father's grave? Putin spread his hands, the benevolent emperor. Burkina Faso can be a lion, but even lions share the hunt, or they starve. Silence pressed down. Somewhere in the Kremlin's high ceiling, microphones hummed. Outside, Russian snow buried yesterday's footprints, a warning that even revolutions can vanish if they choose wrong allies. For an hour that felt like a century, the two men circled each other with words sharper than any blade. Putin spoke of pipelines, of satellite bases, of a new Africa that would rise not under the West, but alongside Moscow's armored shoulder. Traoré listened, eyes locked, mouth quiet, as if each promise were a snake uncoiling at his feet. We do not want colonies, Putin said, leaning closer, voice dipped in grandfatherly warmth. We want partners who understand how to keep vultures from your gold and your fields. Sign with us, and no Western sanction will touch you again. Outside the frosted windows, Moscow's skyline glittered, a cold diamond on an iron fist. Inside, Traoré's mind raced through villages back home, the farmers with no tractors but endless patience, the soldiers patching old rifles with borrowed parts, the mothers who told their children that this young president would be different. Sankara's words echoed in him now. They will offer you iron chains wrapped in silk. Take them, and your people will never forgive you." He shifted in his chair, posture straight as an unbent flag. "You want my mines? My uranium? My loyalty when Europe comes begging for grain or gold?" Putin's smile flickered, just a crack, gone in a blink. "I want your friendship, President Traoré, and friendship must have proof." Traoré stood suddenly, no tremor in his voice, no frost on his spine. "Friendship has no chains, not from Paris, not from Moscow." Burkina Faso bows to no one. For a heartbeat, the room froze, two predators eye to eye. Putin only chuckled, a dry rasp that made the walls seem to lean closer. "Then may your lion's roar be loud enough when the jackals come. We shall see, my friend, we shall see." Traoré walked out of the Kremlin into a night so cold it made his breath look like smoke from a battlefield. The Russian security escort stayed just a polite distance behind, close enough to watch, too far to hear the revolution brewing in his mind. Back in his small, guarded hotel suite, he found an envelope slipped under the door. No signature, just his name scrawled in Cyrillic letters and a single typed warning in stiff English. "They won't let you leave Moscow alive if you keep saying no." He turned it over in his hand, feeling the weight of a message that didn't bluff. He thought of Sankar's last orders before the flight. "If you smell betrayal in Moscow, don't fight on their soil. Get home alive. Then we fight on ours." He opened the curtains. The city below glittered like a promise wrapped in ice. Somewhere under that frost, someone was planning a polite accident. A car that never reached the airport, a food tray laced with final silence. Traoré checked his phone. No calls out. Lines jammed or tapped. He knew then the bear's claws had never offered friendship. They offered a leash, and he'd bitten the hand instead. He dialed his personal aide in Ouagadougou on a secure line. Once, twice, 3 times. Static. He moved fast. 2 loyal bodyguards packed bags in silence. A diplomatic SUV idled in the alley, hidden from the official motorcade Putin's staff had arranged. As the car tore through icy back streets, Traoré's pulse thundered louder than the Kremlin's threats. "I am not Sankar's ghost. I am Sankar's revenge, and Africa is awake." Behind him, a black sedan slipped from the shadows, headlights off, carrying men paid to make sure the lion never roared again. The SUV skidded through Moscow's maze of frozen streets, tires squealing on black ice that glowed like a trap under the street lamps. Inside, Traoré sat sandwiched between his 2 most trusted guards, eyes scanning the side mirrors, breath steady despite the storm behind his ribs. "Black sedan, 2 cars back," whispered Bubasar, the older of the 2. "Same plates as the diplomatic convoy. They know." Traoré almost laughed at the absurdity. A village son chased by one empire because he wouldn't kneel for another. He reached into his coat, fingers brushing the small pistol Sankara had pressed into his hand before he left. "Don't use it unless the flag is about to fall," Sankara had said. "Your mind is sharper than any bullet." Up ahead, the safe route to the airport was blocked. A convoy of maintenance trucks suspiciously parked side by side. The driver cursed, wrenching the wheel hard left into an older industrial district where Soviet relics rusted beside new glass towers. Behind them, the black sedan closed the gap. Faster now, brazen, headlights glaring full power. "Window! Now!" Traoré barked. Bubakar leaned out, fired twice. Glass showered the road, a tire burst, but the sedan kept coming, swerving with predatory patience. "They don't want you dead here," the driver yelled over the engine's roar. "Too loud! They want you back inside the embassy in chains." "Then we don't stop," Traoré said, voice iron. They cut through an abandoned freight yard, skidded past rusting cranes, a lion darting through the bones of old Russian power. In his chest, Traoré could feel it, the pull of home, of Ouagadougou's dust and drums. He was a heartbeat away from Moscow's iron jaws. But Africa's roar was louder than Moscow's silence. "Push faster," he ordered. "Burkina Faso waits for me, so does every man who thinks Africa can't choose its own path." Behind them, sirens wailed. but no empire could stop the sunrise. The battered SUV burst through the final security gate of Sheremetyevo Airport, tires spitting slush onto stunned guards. Inside the terminal, sleepy travelers watched wide-eyed as Traoré and his men pushed through a tangle of luggage carts and shocked airport police. "Diplomatic pass! Out of the way!" Boubacar barked, waving a forged clearance that wouldn't survive 2 phone calls but bought them 20 precious seconds. At Gate 17, a small charter jet idled, its engines humming with the quiet promise of home. It was no official government jet, just a hired shell, paid for in secret by Burkina Faso's lone honest ambassador in Eastern Europe. Sankara's Plan B. "They'll block the runway in minutes," the pilot yelled over the rising whine of the turbines. "Moscow Control just ordered me to shut down." "Then don't ask permission," Traoré said, pushing him back up the steps. "Ask forgiveness later. From your children, not from Moscow." Behind them, uniformed airport guards spilled into the boarding hall, radios crackling in frantic Russian. A black-suited man with an embassy badge barked orders into a phone, eyes locked on Traoré with the cold certainty of a hunter reclaiming escaped prey. Traoré turned to his guards. "No killing. We leave Moscow as guests, not criminals." But his hand brushed the pistol in his coat again, a silent prayer that diplomacy would outrun betrayal one last time. They slammed the cabin door shut. Engines roared. Outside, flashing lights converged on the tarmac. Police cars, embassy sedans, a last desperate bear hug from the empire he'd refused. Through the cockpit window, Traoré glimpsed the dawn cracking the Russian sky open, a thin streak of gold fighting endless gray. "Fly," he told the pilot, "and don't stop until we smell African soil again." The jet lurched forward, defiance on wings lifting above the frozen claws that had tried to clip the lion's roar forever. When the jet's wheels kissed Ouagadougou's cracked runway, Traoré exhaled a breath that felt older than him, a sigh carried from Sankara's era to his own. On the tarmac, Sankara himself stood waiting, coat flapping in the dusty dawn wind. No ceremony, no cameras. Just 2 soldiers of different generations measuring what they'd nearly lost. "I told you Moscow would serve tea with poison," Sankara rasped, grabbing Traoré's shoulder as he stepped off the plane. "Next time, remind me to send someone I don't plan to bury," Traoré shot back, half smiling through the ache in his bones. Inside a secure war room beneath the presidential palace, they spread out files, photos of Russian advisors stationed in neighboring capitals, grain deals scribbled with bribes disguised as development aid, whispers of mercenaries offering cheap protection to warlords who still dreamed of old colonies. "He didn't say it directly," Traoré told the inner circle gathered around the cracked oak table. "But the message was clear. Bow your head now, or watch your enemies multiply tomorrow." Sankara jabbed a finger at a satellite image of a Russian cargo plane unloading crates marked "Agricultural Machinery." Guns wrapped in fertilizer. "The bear always fattens you first, then eats you slow." Traoré looked each minister in the eye, voice cold steel. "No more letters. No more secret deals. If they want our gold, they will pay fair. If they want to intimidate us, they will bleed for every inch." A young aide, barely out of university, whispered, "But Mr. President, we can't fight Moscow and Paris at the same time." Traoré's answer came without pause. "Then we don't fight alone. We show Africa that one lion standing is strong, but a pride together is unstoppable." Outside, the first chants rose in the courtyard. Word had leaked. Traoré defied Putin and lived. 1,000 drums answered one bear's growl. Africa's pulse, reminding the world this continent picks its own chains, or none at all. As the sun scorched over Ouagadougou, Traoré's message spread faster than any Kremlin threat. Burkina Faso bows to no empire. Crowds packed the capital's dusty squares, waving battered flags, singing new songs about the young president who stared down the bear and walked away unchained. But inside the palace, old ghosts stirred. A secret meeting flickered in a dark conference room. Sankara leaning close to the security chief, voice hushed. If Moscow failed to leash him, they'll try to break him from inside. Watch every minister, every soldier with too much wine and too few ideals. A knock at the door. An aide, pale, clutching a USB stick like it might explode. Sir, you need to see this. It's a recording. A call between one of our senior generals and a Russian contact in Bamako. Sankara plugged it in. Static crackled, then a voice, unmistakable. General Yarrow, head of the northern garrison, whispering promises to deliver troop movements, sabotage supply lines. If Moscow helps me clean up this naive boy king. Traoré listened in silence, jaw tightening with every treason-soaked syllable. When the audio ended, the room held its breath. He was my father's friend, Traoré murmured, each word a blade drawn slowly. And now he sells our sons for a bigger office. Sankara growled, We root him out now, tonight, or tomorrow we fight 2 wars, one for our borders, one for our honor. Traoré nodded once, sharp as a guillotine. No blood in the streets, we catch him clean. Show our people, and Moscow, that a lion hunts traitors before he hunts enemies. Outside, under a wide mango tree, the people danced. Drums thumped like a heartbeat that could not be bought. Inside, the hunt for betrayal began, quiet, ruthless, and African to its core. Midnight cloaked Ouagadougou in a hush that hid its boiling blood. General Yarrow, the traitor in a patriot's uniform, sat alone in his lavish compound, nursing a glass of imported whiskey, Moscow's last bribe for a betrayal half complete. A whisper of movement at the gate, then the soft pop of silenced rifles. Sankara's trusted strike team slipped through shadow and garden, ghosts carrying the law Traoré had promised. No blood in the streets, but no mercy for jackals. Inside, Yarrow barely rose from his chair when the door cracked open. Sankara himself stepped through first, coat swirling like an old judge's robe. General, Sankara rasped, voice calm as a hanging rope. We found your buyer. Yarrow's lips twitched into a weak smile. I did what was needed. He's just a boy. Moscow has men. Men understand power. Sankara said nothing more. He only signaled. 2 silent soldiers lifted Yarrow from his velvet seat, the general's drink spilling like a final confession. Outside the compound, armored trucks idled, quiet, unmarked. No crowds, no headlines, just a snake beheaded before it could strike again. Back at the palace, Traoré watched the dawn break from his balcony. Below, a sea of citizens gathered again, word already spreading. The traitor is gone. The lion hunts his own. Meanwhile in Moscow, the Kremlin's advisors scrambled. Their puppet lay in chains, their threats turned into a roaring symbol of African pride. One aide muttered to Putin, Perhaps we underestimated him. Putin only stared at a burning fireplace, eyes as cold as Siberian frost. Every lion thinks he is king, until the forest burns. But in Ouagadougou, that forest belonged to Africa alone, and it would burn only for its children, not for foreign ghosts. The sun climbed slow and golden over Ouagadougou's restless streets, where songs now rose louder than any foreign radio broadcast. In Independence Square, thousands gathered. Farmers in dusty sandals, students clutching battered notebooks, mothers swaying babies on their backs. They came for no other reason than this: to see the man who faced a bear, broke a jackal, and still stood unbowed. Traoré stepped onto the worn marble steps of the old colonial governor's house, the same building where, decades ago, men in suits signed away Africa's riches for cheap promises. Today, he spoke above those ghosts. They said Africa cannot choose its own masters, he called out, voice carrying over the restless hum of drums and chants. I say Africa has no masters, only children and elders, brothers and sisters. A wave of ululation broke from the crowd, a sound older than any empire, pure and raw. They sent me gifts wrapped in chains, he said, lifting a hand as if holding an invisible leash. They sent bribes disguised as friendship. They sent threats disguised as advice. And when none of it worked, they sent traitors among us. He paused, letting the truth settle like a lion's growl at dusk. But here I stand. And here you stand. And as long as we stand together, Africa chooses her own path. No more borrowed dreams, no more stolen gold, no more fear of old flags and new empires. Sankara stood behind him in the shadows, arms crossed, the ghost of yesterday's revolution, now the guard dog of today's hope. "Let them come with new deals tomorrow," Traoré shouted. "We will greet them as equals, or not at all. We are awake. We are many. And the lion does not fear the bear." Cheers rose like thunder rolling across savannas that no foreign king would ever fully tame again. In the crowd, a child on his father's shoulders yelled the only words that mattered, "Africa roars back!" And so it did. In the end, this was never just about one man standing up to another. It was never just about secret deals whispered behind marble walls or threats hidden inside polite handshakes. This was about something bigger, a promise that Africa's path must be walked by African feet, not paved by foreign powers craving control. Ibrahim Traoré faced the bear and came home with scars, but also with a roar that echoes across every border drawn by old empires. And tonight, as drums beat in Ouagadougou and beyond, a new generation remembers freedom is not given. It is chosen, protected, and passed forward. Thank you for watching this story. If you believe in an Africa that stands tall and kneels for no one, share this message, subscribe, and keep the roar alive. This is The Untold State, where stories they wish you'd forget are remembered forever.